All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. By the way, a quick reminder, Seth Moulton, Democratic presidential candidate, will be in studio tomorrow. And we will also have Fred Gutenberg. If you remember, this is the father who lost his daughter in the Parkland school shooting. We're going to talk a little bit about gun violence on the rise with him tomorrow. So that'll be a lot of fun. But it is Wednesday, folks. And, JD, you do know what that means, correct?
I'm aware of what Wednesday means, yes.
It means it is time to get in the ring with none other than Michael Avenatti. And I'll tell you what, the phone lines are full. So we're going to take some calls with Michael. But first off, Michael, thanks for coming on again. How are you?
Excellent, gents. Great to be on.
Thank you so much. Well, we got a lot of phone calls to get to, but before we get to them, I want to ask you this. The beginning of the debate tonight, maybe I'm making a too big of a deal of this, but I think it is a big deal when Kamala Harris pretty much wipes the floor clean with Joe Biden in the first debate. And as they go on the stage, Joe Biden says, "Take it easy on me, kid." See, to me, I just thought he made a mistake by saying that. I think it makes him look weak, and some people might not think it's a big deal, but he says that against Donald Trump, it's over. What do you say?
Well, I've got a couple thoughts about it. Number one, I think it showed a lack of understanding that he was mic'd up at the time and the way that could be misinterpreted. So, I think that's a problem in the first instance. Second of all, had I been Joe Biden in that instance, I most certainly would not have sent that message to Kamala Harris. I mean, you don't want to give any sign of weakness to your opponent whatsoever. Now, with those two things said, he's an affable guy. He comes from a different generation. He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. Doesn't necessarily mean he's not a fighter. It doesn't necessarily mean that he can't go the distance with Trump. So, I wasn't crazy about it. He should know better than to make a statement like that. I think he should have come out with his game face on.
All right, fair enough. What do you think? What do you say, Mike? What do you say we take some calls?
Let's do it.
All right. Why don't we start off with Wayne? Wayne, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Yeah, I'm just passing through and got your station on my radio, so just had a couple of comments.
Sure, go ahead.
And one comment on the reparation. Nobody's ever bringing up how many of the white soldiers during the Revolutionary War that they gave their lives to free the slaves, and nobody's ever talking about reparation for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should be considered as well. And what about if we're bringing up dead presidents and what they said, then we can talk about the Japanese internment camp, who was in charge when that happened. Of course, it was Roosevelt, who was a very liberal Democrat. And another thing about the great African Americans that we have amongst us, they were brought over here. Everybody knows the situation. But in my readings and education of what I've gotten is the Democrats have, and I'm not totally against the Democrats because I go both ways sometimes, but they started this abortion thing, and you can go back and correct me if I'm wrong, but this main reason that we have abortion today, or back in the day, was to actually control the African-American population.
Okay, well, today, let's let Michael Avenatti respond to that, because you got a lot in there. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, first of all, I've said in the past that I'm not a proponent of reparations, and there's a number of reasons for that. I'm starting with, I don't know how you would begin to administer it. And second of all, I think it is a critical, strategic, political error for the Democratic Party to allow this issue to be, if not front and center, one of the top issues in 2020. That is a critical mistake. It's going to hurt the Democrats' chances to unseat Trump. It's going to, in many ways, feed his campaign, which is going to be a campaign premised in significant part on racial tensions and racial divide. And I think it's a mistake for the Democrats to allow this to become an issue in 2020. There's no question that the African-American population in the United States has been discriminated against in the past, continues to be discriminated against day in and day out. Anybody that tells you that racism is not alive and well in the United States has been living under a rock or is lying through their teeth, because there's no question that it exists. I think there's other ways to address the lack of economic advantage and opportunity that the African-American community has in the United States. And I think that those mechanisms or those processes or procedures are different than reparations. I'm not a fan of reparations because I don't know exactly where you draw the line, and I think it becomes a slippery slope to a certain degree. Now, as it relates to this issue about abortion supposedly coming to the forefront in a way to control the African-American population, I've never heard of that before in my lifetime. I'm highly skeptical about it. I think it's dubious at best.
Dubious.
And I just, I don't believe it. And it also begins to smack of racism. So, those are my thoughts as to those issues.
All right, 257-5396, the number to call, 702-257-5396. Michael Avenatti joining us. Let's go to Bob. Bob, what's going on?
Hi, gentlemen. How are you this evening?
Good,
Great,
Bob.
Good. And Brian, I have to agree with you as to the absurdity of reparations. And there is a simple way to solve this, and it's called the Rachel Dolezal method. As you may recall, she was the head of the NAACP in Spokane, Washington. She is a woman who is completely of white background, and yet she claimed to be black. So all we need to do is claim that each of us really identifies as black, and people need to get woke to us.
Okay,
So
that's a little bizarre. I don't know where to really to go with that, Bob.
Bob, that was kind of out of control.
Yeah.
That's kind of tongue-in-cheek.
Well, I
Clearly.
would hope so. Yes.
Yes. As to some of the things that President Trump has said about Elijah Cummings, did you know that in every slave state prior to the Civil War, it was a massive offense, very serious offense, to teach a slave to read or write? Now, in Baltimore, we have, out of the 39 high schools, 13 where they graduated children who are primarily black,
Bob,
who have absolutely no facility in math.
now, Bob, that's a good point. Bob, I want to let Michael Avenatti respond to that. You bring up a very, very valid point. Michael, what do you say to that? First of all, the comments that Donald Trump said to Elijah Cummings and the issues that Baltimore faces.
Well, Baltimore is facing many of the same issues that many of our inner cities are facing across the country. Look, I'm a fan of Elijah Cummings. I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's done a lot of good for Baltimore. I think he's one of the few Democrats that is a true fighter. The Democratic Party has a lot of talent. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of fighters. But I'm a fan of Elijah Cummings. Now, does that mean that his district does not face challenges? Of course not. Does that mean that his district does not face a lot of the same challenges, again, that many of our inner cities are facing across the country? Of course not. He's got work to do in that district. That city has work to do, just like so many of our cities across the country. But is Donald Trump really in a position to start criticizing congressmen and women from inner cities around America? What the hell has Donald Trump done for inner cities around America? Not a whole hell of a lot, truth be told. I mean, and look, these comments are rooted in an effort to divide this country. This is part of his 2020 campaign. Divide and conquer. He wants whites at the throats of blacks and blacks at the throats of whites, and he wants whites at the throats of Hispanics and vice versa. He wants to divide us. This is a divisive president. He's the most divisive president in modern times, in my view, and I think it is clear as day. I'm reminded of something, a point that I wanted to make before, because I continue to hear this from my friends and my enemies on the right, and frankly, I'm tired of hearing it. Okay, let me be clear about something. All because you're a Democrat today does not mean that you endorse everything that every Democratic president did before today. Okay? So if you liked President Obama, that doesn't mean you had to agree with everything that he did. So when we talk about kids in cages, when we talk about kids that don't get sleep and toothbrushes and soap at the border, I don't want to hear, well, it happened under Obama too. So what? I don't care. Obama's not the president today. I'm talking about solving the problem here and now. I don't want to hear about what FDR did in the internment camps. Guess what? If I was alive then and it was going on, I would have been just as vocal then as I am now. But this whole idea that all because a Democratic president before Donald Trump was supportive of something or did something, that automatically means that you can't criticize Donald Trump is a bunch of baloney.
You know, I don't understand what Trump really has to gain by being divisive. He's worth several hundred of millions of dollars, probably not, the 2.2 that he claims, 2.2 billion. I just don't see what his upside is. Elijah Cummings has been the congressperson in Baltimore, in the state of Maryland, for 23 years now. So it's hard to say that he really hasn't been a large part of why Baltimore is where it's at. I mean, if you look at, there's been TV series based on the oppression, like The Wire. There's been movies like Traffic that have taken place. I mean, at what point can you not consider Elijah Cummings kind of, complicit in what's in the situation in Baltimore right now?
Well, let me tell you what he has to gain. Fear is a very, very powerful emotion. Very powerful. It's one of the most powerful emotions that humans can experience. And a lot of people will do a lot of things out of fear. And what he has to gain is turnout and riling up his base and creating a situation where people are afraid. They're afraid of Hispanics and Latinos pouring across our border, committing atrocities and violence and stealing our jobs and all the other nonsense that Trump and his minions come up with. They are afraid. He is instilling fear relating to other races in America and inciting and engaging in race baiting. And it's all designed to rile up his base, to get people to turn out and to vote against him.
Michael, did we lose you there?
Michael,
you still there? Oh, I think we lost Michael. We'll call him back.
We'll get him back.
Yeah. The number to call again, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. 702-257-5396. Michael, do we have you back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead,
great.
JD.
So you're saying, do you believe that Donald Trump, just in order to win the 2020 election, because he wants to win that bad, that he is willing to basically put the country in a situation where a potential race war could take place?
100%. This is a guy that, all he cares about is winning, frankly. He doesn't care about how he wins. As far as he's concerned, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And the Democrats better figure that out. I mean, they better figure out that is the guy you're going to run against in 2020. I've said this before, this is a cage match. There will be no rules. There will be no bounds. There will be no standards. And if the Democrats nominate somebody that wants to play by a finite set of rules, and they want to sugarcoat things, and they're not willing to trade blows with this guy on the terms that I just described, they will lose.
I agree. Let's take some more phone calls. Let's go to Todd. I believe, Todd, you're next on the Vegas Take. You're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
What's up, Todd?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
Calling from upstate New York, so a ways away.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks for taking the call.
We appreciate you staying up late and listening to us. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I have a good question, and then Michael, just to go on what he was saying about the last topic too. But Hitler wrote that playbook, a long time ago. That's how a lot of things got started, trying to blame the Jews for everything. You could almost take all that and make the Donald Trump version of the Democrats. So that playbook's been out there before, and I agree 100% with what Michael was saying, that it's been done before and it can work, and it's scary. What my question was is, I'm having a hard time watching these Democratic debates right now, because it's almost like they can look great on paper and all their ideas, but if they can't beat Trump, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And as Michael even broke it down further, that it's the 5 states. It's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Ohio. So my question for Mike is, other than Biden, Mike, who do you think, which candidates can take those 5? And is there one or two? And is there any female, like maybe Amy Klobuchar or male Michael Bennet, who really impressed me with his the speech on the Senate floor about crocodile tears with Ted Cruz? Can those guys take those 5? And if not, who can?
Good question, Todd. We appreciate you listening. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, no, excellent question. Thanks for calling in, Todd. So, let me give you my thoughts on this, and I'll give an analogy And, hopefully there's some baseball fans that are listening and don't understand what I'm talking about. Here's the situation, gentlemen. It's the bottom of the ninth. The tying run is on third, and the winning run is on second, and there's 2 outs. The game is on the line, all right? The Democrats have to call into the game the pitcher that can pitch to the batter that's at the plate, and the batter is Donald Trump. So who are we going to call to pitch to Donald Trump, the batter? We need 1 out. Now, taking my analogy and applying it to where we are, in my view, the modern-day future of the republic is at stake. That's how much is at stake in 2020. Now, are we going to call into the game the pitcher that is the best starting pitcher, is the best relief pitcher, or are we going to call into the game the pitcher that can get that 1 out? Because that's the ball game. That is the ball game. We have to get that 1 out. So the Democrats have to nominate not the person that would make the best president, not the person that would have the best policy. That is the wrong approach. The Democrats better nominate the person that matches up best against Donald Trump in those 5 key states. Now, do I wish that Joe Biden was perhaps 20 years younger and had the energy that he did 20 years ago? Absolutely. Have I been a little concerned, or am I a little concerned that he's lost a step and that he is not the Joe Biden of a few years ago? Absolutely. I am concerned. I grow increasingly concerned. I still maintain that he gives the Democrats the best chance to get that 1 out in the bottom of the ninth in those 5 key states. Now, beyond Joe Biden, who do I think also has a good shot to get that 1 out? Again, we're talking about this guy. It's the person that matches up against Donald Trump, not the person that would match up against somebody else. Who is that? I have to tell you, I thought that, and I know that a lot of Democrats are going to get upset for saying this, and I don't think he can win the nomination because there's a lot of people that are still really upset about what happened in 2016. I thought Bernie Sanders brought a lot to the table last night. I thought he had a lot of fire in the belly, and I thought he made a compelling case. The problem is that I think he's just too far to the left. I don't think he's a moderate enough to win those states. What's amazing to me is the Democrats have put up 20 candidates, over 20 candidates for the nomination. And I don't know that there's a particular candidate that has come to the forefront that I can actually see beating this guy beyond Joe Biden. I'm growing increasingly concerned. I think a number of these candidates would face an uphill battle in those 5 states. Sure, they can win the popular vote by 6 million. I mean, forget about 3 million as Hillary did. I think they can double that. I think they'll crush Trump in New York and California and some of these other states. But that's not the ball game. The ball game's those 5 states.
I like the analogy. I know JD does as well, being a baseball fan. 257-5396 is the number to call. I believe Mike is next. Mike, you are on with Michael Avenatti. Thank you for calling in. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
I'm just calling. Michael was just talking about Trump, making us scared of, immigrants and everything like that. The point is, I'm scared to put a Trump sticker on my bumper for what liberals will do when I'm driving around or when they see it in a parking lot. They'll slash my tires. They'll key my car. My mom has one. People chase her down the street all the time.
Mike, before
outrageous.
Michael answers your question, I think, listen, that is a valid thing that you're bringing up. So you're telling me that you've had people chase you or your mother?
In Nevada, my mom, who's a 70-year-old lady, people have chased her down the block screaming at her.
I believe that.
That's absurd.
That's crazy.
To be an American and not be able to support our president of the United States is outrageous.
Well, I mean, and how is that not discrimination?
Yeah, well, listen.
It has to be.
I'm sure Michael would agree. Michael, and Mike, thank you for the call. I want Michael Avenatti to respond to that. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Mike, look, first of all, I agree 100%, regardless of the age of your mother. If she wants to support Donald Trump and put a bumper sticker on her car, that's her God-given right in America, and God bless her. I mean, I don't agree with it, but nobody should be chasing her down the street or threatening her or, behaving like an asshat towards your mother just simply because she supports. There's no question about that. Look, I think that this environment in which we are operating right now is toxic. I think it is growing more toxic by the week and the month. And I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again. we're sitting on a powder keg in America. And this powder keg, the pressure in the powder keg is growing each and every day. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is not doing anything to alleviate that pressure. He is building the pressure himself. He is creating a more divisive atmosphere in this country. And I think it's very, very dangerous. But look, I don't care if you're on the right, the left, the center. I don't care if you're an atheist, if you're a Christian, where you line up. You have more respect for each other's views, and we should not be targeting people and harassing people just simply because they don't agree with us.
I agree. And if there's anybody on the line right now that knows a little bit about harassment because of maybe political views or your history with Donald Trump, you would know, Michael. So I could not agree with you more on that one. 257-5396. Let's go to Neil. You're on with Michael Avenatti. What's up?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi, sir. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say the following. My call tonight is simply to thank Michael for creating the funniest and most memorable segment I've ever seen on CNN.
You have to be talking about Tucker Carlson, right?
No. This
I'm CNN. Oh,
yeah, CNN's
I'm
different.
sorry.
Sports,
Okay, go ahead.
and Michael was holding a brown envelope from which he pulled a picture of Michael Cohen. Michael then asked David where Michael Cohen was and followed up by calling David Michael Cohen's stunt double.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Today, when I think about it. So, Michael, thank you very much for that and for your bravery.
Thank you, Neil, for that call. I have to watch that segment, Michael.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. So, I came up with that idea to bring in that blow up of Michael Cohen because actually I had used that. I'd used something similar in a trial where a witness never appeared for the defense, and I used a blow up of the witness in closing argument and made a big deal out of the fact that where's that guy? Where was that witness? You didn't hear from him, and we got. And so when it came time for me to go up against David Schwartz on Anderson on AC 360 on CNN, I decided to use something similar, and it all came together. Although, frankly, it wasn't that big a contest, me against David Schwartz. I mean, that was a critical error Michael Cohen and the White House made early on in that case, was bringing David Schwartz out to match up against me because it really wasn't a fair fight. But I'm glad, Neil, that you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed it, and it's one of the highlights, actually, for me of all the TV interviews that I gave, and we all know I gave a lot.
I thought Tucker Carlson was great. I thought he was so disrespectful towards you, but I thought that segment there just showed you what type of person Tucker Carlson is. He's a coward, and he won't have you back on. I thought you destroyed him. We'll take some more phone calls, 257-5396 with Michael Avenatti. Let's go to Eric. Eric, you're next. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with Brian. Joe Biden has lost it tonight, and calling or apologizing to Kamala even before the debates. He's going to get pounded by Trump. Now, Michael, you said on several occasions that only a white man can win, and you still stand by that. And I just wonder why do you think that only a white man can win? You're quoted saying that in Time magazine. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Okay, go ahead, Michael. Thank you for the call, Eric.
So David, I think you called in last week, and if it wasn't you, it was somebody that had a voice that sounded much like yours, and you asked me the same question last week. I'm going to go back to what I said then, and I've maintained this position repeatedly. That's not what I said. I gave an interview to Time magazine across a number of months. I think I met with Molly Ball, the reporter, on 5 or 6 separate occasions for lengthy interviews. The article came out. Okay, it did not contain those statements within the proper context. Magazine released the entirety of the transcripts so that people could read for themselves what I said. Time magazine refused to do that, and to this day they've refused to do that.
Yes.
And I ask you, why is that? And the reason is because they know that if they release the entirety of the transcripts, it's not going to, people are going to ask what the hell Time magazine was doing, suggesting that, when that's not what I said in that context.
We hope that he asks a different question next week.
Yeah, so look, I think a woman could potentially beat Donald Trump. I think a minority could potentially beat Donald Trump under certain circumstances. But again, I'm going to go back to what I've said. when it comes down to picking a nominee, the Democrats have to pick the person that best matches up against him in those 5 states. The Democrats need to imagine that particular candidate walking into a diner in a small town in those 5 states and how people will react to them once they meet that candidate and listen to him for 2 minutes.
We'll take a few more quick calls, and then we will take a break. Let's go to Ronnie. Ronnie, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir, you're on.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm almost 50, and when I went to school when I was in junior high, I had a lot of white people telling me, I'm mixed, by the way, and telling me, go back home, go back home.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I heard Trump say that, it hurt real hard when I was younger, but he didn't really say it that way. He said, if you don't like it here, go back home. It's a totally different issue.
All right. Well, Ronnie, I appreciate your perspective. And by the way,
interesting.
I am sorry that you had a bunch of nimrods that said those things to you. Michael, why don't you respond to that? Because, you know, what this man is saying is that he doesn't construe what Donald Trump said as a racist statement. I disagree with that. What do you say?
Well, I disagree as well. And, you know, I think it's very unfortunate that he had to deal with that growing up because no one should have to deal with that. You know, we're all Americans, and this has been a melting pot since the beginning of time. That was the foundation upon which this country was founded, was the fact that we welcome many, we welcome all from all around the world, and that's a strength and not a weakness. You know, look, it really boils down to whether you think the President of the United States should adhere to the same societal norms and standards that all of us do, or whether he should adhere to something lower or higher. So, you know, I'm 48. I'm old school, I guess, because I believe that the President of the United States should be a role model for Americans, should be a role model for our youth, should be somebody that we aspire to be, that we tell our kids to look up to. You can say a lot of things about Donald Trump. Not a lot of people can honestly claim that this is a guy that they would have their kids emulate and tell to look up to. Not a lot of people
that's a good point.
can honestly say that.
No, that's a good point. I agree with you. I make that point all the time on this show. Let's go to Kenneth. Kenneth, you're on with Michael Avenatti. Go ahead. What's up, Kenneth?
Hey, appreciate you taking my call, man.
Sure.
And I do have to agree with you, Mike. I think the president should be a role model. A couple questions I wanted to ask was first, do you guys think that some of the presidents in the past, Democrat and Republicans, have tried to divide and play the race card in the elections? And as far as the health care insurance goes, I kind of want to get you guys' opinion on how that goes, because as a single person, 43 years old, I have not been able to afford insurance since Obamacare has gone into effect because it's gotten too expensive for me to afford.
Kenneth,
if I afford that, then I won't be able to afford to live. You know what I mean?
Kenneth, two really, really good questions, and we're going to let Michael answer those for you. Thank you for the call. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, you know, first of all, as it relates to the healthcare situation in America, this is a issue that has been at the forefront for, you know, the better part of 2 or 3 decades. I think that Obamacare was a increase or was more beneficial than what we've had in the past? Absolutely. You know, I think it was a Band-Aid. I don't think it's an absolutely perfect fix by any stretch of the imagination. I think it needs to be modified, or we need to move to a Medicare for all or single payer type system if we really ultimately want to solve the problem. The other thing I think is that, you know, from a strategic political perspective, the Democrats are making a critical mistake when they talk about the idea of providing free health care to individuals that are coming to the United States illegally, because a lot of people around the country, just like the caller, haven't had a chance to have their own health care. And they're sitting around going, well, hold on a minute. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm in the United States legally, and I can't afford care. Now the government's going to give a handout. This is the way they see it. It's going to give a handout to illegal immigrants. And what about me? And so from a political standpoint, you know, I think that's a big problem. As it relates to other Republican presidents that have sought to divide the United States. I'm just running through the Republican presidents that have been in office during my lifetime. Again, I'm 48. I don't think there's been a Republican president during my lifetime who has certainly has not sought to openly divide the country or increase racial tensions anywhere close to the extent that Donald Trump has.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that there's been a single Republican president that I could claim has done that in my lifetime. I mean, I'm just running through the list. Ronald Reagan, no, I don't think he did it. Neither one of the Bushes. I don't think either one of them did it. Gerald Ford, no. I was very young when Nixon was in office, so I can't really comment on that, although, I know the history of the presidency. So I would say no. This is not a Republican or Democrat kind of debate. I mean, look, if Donald Trump is a Democrat and he was engaged in the same in a salary.
I think Michael's phone has broken. Michael, your phone is breaking up a little bit. So we got to put you on hold. We were going to go up against a break anyway. We'll take some more phone calls when we come back. We got Tyler, John, Mark, Dave on the line. So we will take some more phone calls when we come back. And we do have some boxing odds that are up there. Michael Avenatti, a possible fight Christmas Eve with Don Jr. That's right. The Vegas take odds are up. We're going to talk to Michael. Well, JD's going to talk to Michael about that because he's our odds guy.
We will have a little conversation.
Yeah, we will talk about that. We'll make sure to get Michael back on the line. His phone was a little choppy there. Michael Avenatti joining us, and we will take.
His phone's having a rough one today.
That's okay. He's driving in L.A., man. The number to call 702-257-5396. We will still, of course, keep the phone lines open at 257-5396. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Michael Avenatti after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Again, a reminder, this show moving 9 a.m. to noon starting August 12th. And Michael Avenatti not only joining us now, as he does every Wednesday, but he will be in studio Monday, August 12th for the entirety of the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Steve Sanchez, nationally syndicated right-wing talk show host, in studio with Michael. So that is going to be fun. And a lot to get to here in this segment. But, Michael, I do want to take one more call before we get into some of these other topics. So let's go straight to Marie. Marie, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. You're on with Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Great. Well, Michael, actually, I should say Mr. Avenatti. It's great to have the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm glad I stumbled across you on the Internet and to hear that you're on weekly. I wanted to start out by saying that I support Joe Biden, and but I want to say that I personally think that too much emphasis is being put on the battleground states at this point. I listened to the entire audiobook of the Mueller report, and it was very clear that those battleground states were targeted by Russia. And also, we also know that all 50 states were actually breached. And the bottom line is that polling data was passed from Manafort to Kalimnik. And I say this to say, collectively, the election was lost by 77,000 votes. And so in my mind, it's not so much about the battleground states as it was the foreign interference. And so I just wanted to just bring that up and see what you have to say.
Thank you for the call, Marie. We appreciate that. Michael, what do you say to that?
Yeah, thank you, Marie, and thank you for the support. So this is an argument that a lot of Democrats make. They say, look, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, and but for the Russian interference, she would have won. And we're only talking about 7,000 votes. And so why isn't whoever the Democrats put up, why aren't they going to beat Donald Trump? And here's the problem with that rationale. First of all, that assumes that everything else is going to be the same in 2020 as it was in 2016. And that's a hell of an assumption, and it's a false assumption. We don't know what turnout's going to be on the right. We don't know what turnout's going to be on the left. Now, I would expect turnout to be higher on the left, regardless of who the nominee is. But we don't know what's going to happen relating to turnout on the right. What happens if turnout on the right actually is more than it was in 2016? Then where are we? Then we can't just count on these 77,000 votes. So that's the first false premise. The second false premise is this idea that the Russians or others may not interfere in 2020. I think that it's an absolute lock that they will interfere, or at least attempt to interfere in 2020. And I think that those efforts are going to be far more extensive than they were, frankly, in 2016. Now, as it relates to why are we focusing on the battleground states, look, I wish that popular vote controlled. I wish there was no electoral college. And if that was true, then I wouldn't be nearly as concerned as I am, and I certainly wouldn't be focused on those battleground states. But that's not the case. You know, the game at this point is the electoral college. And when you look at the map and you start to add votes, you realize that those key battleground states basically will determine the election. I'm not happy about it. I know many of you are not happy about it. But that's why we have to focus so hard on those states, unless we want to have a hollow victory of winning the popular vote but losing the presidency again. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we want that.
If you're just joining us, our guest, Michael Avenatti, who joins us our In the Ring segment with Michael Avenatti every Wednesday. He'll be in studio August 12th when we move 9 a.m. to noon. Okay, Michael, before we get to this possible fight with Donald Trump Jr. on Christmas Eve, I do want to bring up one more serious subject, and we played the audio in the first hour. You know, everyone says so many nice things about Ronald Reagan, what a great man he was, but not a lot of Republicans today are talking about the audio that was released in a private conversation Ronald Reagan had, apparently when he was president, describing African Americans as monkeys, saying monkeys from African countries. I was shocked to hear this, disgusted. What do you make of this audio that was just released in regards to Ronald Reagan?
Well, I haven't had the opportunity to listen to the audio yet. I'm a little surprised that after all of these years, it's just now coming to the forefront. What is the origin of this audio? Do we know where it came from?
I have to do a little bit more research on it, but it's been all over the place. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC have been playing it.
And it's pretty glaring.
Yeah, I mean, it's his voice. It's obvious. It's pretty bad, Michael. Doesn't sound good.
Well, you can't justify that. I mean, you can't justify anyone saying that, frankly, let alone a sitting president while in office. So if the audio is as you describe, it's outrageous, and it should be condemned.
Yeah.
Can't argue that. So this is a subject we have not really gone over, but there's no denying that temperatures are rising all over the United States, if not the world. There's been 2 earthquakes about an hour and a half away from us in California in the last month, and Vegas has just endured a massive grasshopper invasion. There's like 1 billion grasshoppers taking over Vegas right now. What are your thoughts on climate change? I mean, I'm usually not a big proponent of it. I don't typically believe in it. I am a conservative, but with what I've been seeing take place, I'm starting to wonder.
I don't think there's any question that we have a serious issue that has to be addressed quickly. And I think that even the people that have been deniers for years and years are starting to come to the realization that that the science does not lie. It's clear as day that we are on the verge of perhaps forever changing life on this planet if we don't do something in a big hurry. We should have never gotten out of the Paris Agreement, in my view. We should get back into the Paris Agreement immediately. I don't believe that AOC's plan is the right way to go. I think it's too extreme, but it needs to be a priority. And if we don't prioritize it in 15 or 20 years, it's going to be too late.
No doubt. And by the way, just to give you a little bit more information on that Reagan audio, the National Archives are the released the audio, and it was a call between Richard Nixon and Reagan, who at the time was the GOP governor of California. So that in regards to that. Okay, so last week, Michael, you came on the show, and we challenged you to a boxing match against Donald Trump Jr., and
just brilliance.
Yeah, and we're saying it should happen on Christmas Eve, and 3 rounds, and 100% of the proceeds going to charity. So
in Vegas, location to be disclosed.
So we put together some very, very smart minds to put together what exactly the odds would be if this fight does happen on Christmas Eve. JD, do you want to go through some of them?
Well, it took me about a day and a half to put these together. I didn't have your wingspans or your hand sizes, so I wasn't exactly sure what was what. I know his hands are much smaller than yours. But I've got you at minus 250. I've got him at plus 200 to actually win the fight. I've got you in knockout by minus 150. I think you would come out swinging. By decision at minus 200. John Jr. or Biff by knockout at plus 300 and by decision at plus 250. The real important odds here are, will President Trump attend? We've got that at minus 700, no. And will Kim Guilfoyle attend? We've got that at plus 125, yes. So we're a little more confident about that. What do you make of these?
Look, I saw the opening odds. I thought they were spot on, JD. I mean, it's obviously, you've obviously done this before. I'd be loading up on me in the fight. Look, I think it would be great fun if Biff would do it. I think we'd raise an enormous amount of money for charity. I think the pay-per-view on Christmas Eve, there's no doubt in my mind we would raise millions of dollars for charity. Everybody on the right would be tuning in, wanting to see me get my ass kicked, and everybody on the left would be tuning in to watch Biff get his ass kicked, which is exactly what would happen. It'd be fun. It'd be a gentleman match. I think it'd be very brief, probably less than a minute and a half, but I'd have a lot of fun with it. I'm ready to start training tonight, but this guy will never agree to do it. I mean, look, Biff, just like his dad, they talk a big game, and at the end of the day, they're cowards, and they need to be called out for being the cowards that they are.
So, I remember when Donald Trump was debating Hillary Clinton and Trump brought some of Bill Clinton's accusers to the debate. Would you have the same strategy? Would you bring some very special guests to this fight? And who do you think Don Jr. would bring along?
Well, look, I don't care who he brings to the fight. He can bring anybody he wants to the fight. Frankly, the result is still going to be the same. I don't know that I would need to bring anybody. I don't have to engage in some stunt. But this, again, I really wish he would do it because I think we could raise a lot of money for charity. I think it would have a lot of interest. I'm not holding out hope that he'll agree to do it. He's a big fighter on Twitter. That's about all he is. He's a big fighter on Twitter, and he's a big fighter, when he's got his rally, his warm-up crowd ready to go for his daddy around the country, the pre-selected individuals. Separate apart from this guy's never accomplished anything in his life, and he's a lot of things, but he's not a fighter. Some guy that's born with a silver spoon in his mouth and a gold toilet under his ass is not a fighter.
I tend to agree with you. We're going to do everything we can to try to put pressure on Don Jr. to see if we can make this thing happen on Christmas Eve.
So Twitterverse, be on the lookout.
Yes, that's absolutely. I want to mention one tweet that you made, Michael, which I found quite funny. Donald Trump, our president, said CNN's Don Lemon called him the dumbest man on television. And then you tweeted out, first of all, real Donald Trump, you and your idiot son, Don Jr., are the dumbest men on television. Second, you are a racist. That is not an insinuation. That is a fact. Sad. Do you want to add anything to that? I thought that was a pretty good tweet.
No, I think that about summed it up. And, I'd be happy to express those thoughts directly to either one of those two knuckleheads.
Well, Michael, it is always so much fun and a pleasure to have you on every Wednesday. Callers get fired up. We had some great calls today.
Fantastic calls.
Yeah,
this is what we want.
Absolutely. And we look forward to doing this again next week, Michael. And we really look forward to you in studio, our first show starting mornings on August 12th, Michael. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah, thank you, guys. And let me just echo what you said. I thought the callers were very informed, very intelligent, and it was a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, great show. Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Catch you next week. All right, there you go. Michael Avenatti joining us as he does every Wednesday. We did have a lot of good calls today.
And just so you know, we don't discuss these questions with Michael beforehand. We hit him with these questions. He answers impromptu, like on his feet. Very, very quickly, which is a good sign.
All I told him is watch. You're going to be watching the debate. We'll probably ask you some debate questions, but no, I mean we take any call. So it is absurd for anybody that thinks that we stop people from calling in. We'll take any call so long as they're respectful. And all the calls today were. I was going to say the majority, but I can't recall one caller that was not.
I totally
respectful.
agree. So if you want to listen back to the interview, Go to our SoundCloud at The Vegas Take, YouTube, The Vegas Take. We'll post it on Twitter tonight, The Vegas Take, Facebook, The Vegas Take, and our website, tvtradio.com.
Mm-hmm. So check those out. Tomorrow's going to be a fun show, and it's going to be very informative, probably going to be emotional. The first guy we have on the show tomorrow, his name is Fred Guttenberg, and if you don't remember who this man is and the hell that he's had to go through, he lost his daughter in the Parkland school shooting. We just had a shooting in California. These mass shootings are happening way too often. One is too many, and Vegas knows. Trust me, the October 1 shooting, the biggest massacre in the history of mass shootings in this country. So Fred Guttenberg has been doing everything he can, in honor of his daughter, and I think I have so much respect for him to try to change some of these gun laws, to try to stop somebody like the 19-year-old in California that bought an AK-47 or a gun very similar to an AK-47 in Nevada, then took the gun illegally into California, killed several people, including a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. So we're going to talk to Fred tomorrow to start the show tomorrow. Usually I don't like having guests right away to start the show, but this is an exception. So Fred will be joining us in the first segment tomorrow, and it's going to be great to have him on. I've been wanting to get him on for a long time. And then the final 90 minutes of the show tomorrow, a man who is, he's got to be extremely frustrated and disappointed that he's not on the stage tonight. He is a Democratic presidential candidate, an extremely intelligent man who degree from Harvard, congressman in Massachusetts, and
he has a lot of military experience.
We're talking about
served the country.
Seth Moulton. He's going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. I know he's going to have a lot of opinions on these debates over the last few days. So what better person to have than him?
He's extremely articulate, well-spoken, and long-winded, so you'll really enjoy it.
And not a Trump supporter like myself.
Very, very far from that.
Definitely not a Trump supporter, but an extremely smart guy and a good guy and a war hero.
And I have a different view on reparations that I'll talk to him about tomorrow.
That's going to be a really interesting conversation. I don't know what Seth Moulton's opinion is on that. I really don't. I'll be interested to ask him about that. I wonder if he agrees with these Democrats that have been on the stage about these reparations for African Americans. I don't know. I don't know what his opinion is on that. I really don't. But we'll ask him. So again, if you're just joining us, you missed a great show, but check it out at The Vegas Take on Twitter. We have our YouTube page. We had Michael Avenatti on the show, so we will certainly be posting that later on this evening. Seth Moulton, Democratic presidential candidate, will be joining us in studio tomorrow, and we will also be joined by Fred Guttenberg, the father who lost his daughter in the Parkland school shooting. So a lot to get to on the show tomorrow. It'll be jam-packed. It'll be loaded. And if you haven't heard, folks, we are moving 9 a.m. to noon. Same state, great station here, KDWN. 9 a.m. to noon starting August 12th. So we can't wait for that. Our thanks to our guest, Michael Avenatti. Catch us tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place. The legend himself, Ken Thompson, coming up next.